Hi, welcome to Julie's Yard and Garden. Today I'm going to explain how to do soil blocking without having to buy a whole lot of expensive gadgets. In order to do soil blocking, all you need is just a few simple things. A wood frame that fits inside a tray of some sort. This happens to be an old cookie sheet that I had because it was pretty battered, and I just thought what a better use for it than to take it into my garden and help me to plant. So a frame that fits snugly, or another thing that you could use instead of a cookie sheet would be a restaurant tray or a school tray, something that can be used over and over again. Then you also have a dough cutter, pastry cutter, scraper, whatever you want to call it. I picked this one up at the dollar store so I wasn't out a whole bunch. I actually bought it to cook with, and then I never really used it. So I thought, again, what better thing to do than to go ahead and just use it in my garden. On the inside of this frame, I went ahead and drew a line so I knew where 1.5 inches was. The next thing that you'll need is just a block of wood. So I just took a little piece from here, and now I have that to tamp my soil down. So after you have your frame and your tray, all you do is you take some very damp soil. This is refried bean consistency, brownie mixture consistency, and there's even some extra water that can pool in the bottom of this bin that I'm holding. So all you do is kind of estimate about how much soil you would need, make it very, very extra moist, and then you stick it inside the frame. I was so excited when I learned about soil blocking because this really does save a lot of space. You don't have to keep a whole bunch of extra pots or store takeout containers. That's still an option. I did another video on different options. This one I think will help so that you don't necessarily have to keep as many pots around. So all I'm doing is just smoothing the soil out. I'm trying to get it about level all the way around. The next thing that you do is you take your dough cutter and you find the center, and that's when you start to cut your blocks. For me, I'm a little bit of a perfectionist, so I'm going to give myself some basic lines to work with because I do want to make sure that I have approximately the same width and length for all of my blocks. I know from doing this previously I can have 24 blocks in this tray. Then all you do is you take your dough cutter, slide it down in. The next thing that I like to do is go ahead and just take a pen and I put a little hole in the center of each of those blocks, and that is where I'm going to plant my seeds. Next, all you have to do is slide your dough cutter around the edges of the soil to just kind of loosen it up from the frame. And then you slide your frame off and you have your soil that is ready to be planted. You can see how wet this is down here. I'm not worried about that. I'm not going to drain it off because the soil will just absorb that over the next few weeks. And when I water, I'm going to be watering into these corners, not into the center of the plant, so all of the moisture comes up from the bottom. Then all that is left to do is plant your seeds. You can decide based on how many seeds you have if you want to plant 1 or 2 per block. Sometimes it's best to plant 2 just in case one doesn't come up. And then of course you need to add your labels. Now, one of the things that you can do is you can wet paper towels and you can cover this, and then you can peek after about a week or so and see what's come up. Or you can actually just take a little tiny bit of very fine, just the same potting soil, just sprinkle it on just barely over the top. I like to do this because then you're not using up a whole bunch of paper towels, although you can put the paper towels into your compost. And even though the soil that I'm putting on top is not moist, it will definitely soak up the moisture from the already previously wet soil. After you've blocked your soil and the plants have grown, it's time to transplant your plants into the garden. What you do is you let them dry out just a little bit for a couple of days to make it a little bit easier to divide the squares again. For me, I've found that as you're trying to remove the blocks of soil, if you start from one end of your pan or your container and move to the back, it's a little bit easier to remove the squares. Now your plant is ready to put into the ground. I hope that you've been able to find something that you can use from this video. It's just another way that you can start your plants and not necessarily have to keep as many pots as I have in the past. I'm definitely going to be cleaning some out, but there will be some that I need to keep just because some plants will need to be transferred into a pot before they are able to be put in the ground. Until next time, grow something you love and just have fun with it.